Welcome to the deep dive. I am really glad you're joining us today because we have uh, a pretty highly concentrated mission for this one.
Yeah, we really do. It's a fun one, though.
It is. We're looking at a source that is literally just two sentences. I mean, it's just a title and a core directive from this pedagogical framework.
Right, which sounds so simple on the surface.
Exactly. The text is just practical fluency, mastering English through real life situations, and then its central thesis, which is learn functional English through real life situations.
That's it. That's the whole source we're looking at.
Right. But our mission today is to put these specific words under a massive intellectual microscope. We want to deconstruct the really profound shift they represent in how we actually acquire new skills.
Because it's so tempting to believe that if you just study the abstract theory of something hard enough, the messy reality of it will just magically become easy for you.
Oh, totally. Like if I just read the manual, I'll be able to fly the plane.
Exactly. We treat language acquisition, and I mean, really, the acquisition of any complex skill like it's a math formula.
Yeah?
We sit in these sterile environments, completely isolated from the real world, and we dissect sentences like they're, I don't know, specimens in a biology lab.
Like pinning a butterfly to a board or something.
Right, exactly. And there is this comforting but fundamentally flawed assumption that if you just memorize the conjugation tables and the syntax rules, that theoretical knowledge will just seamlessly translate into actual human connection.
Okay, let's unpack this because, on the surface, those two sentences might just sound like standard marketing copy for some new language app.
Yeah, 100%, like learn Spanish fast.
Right. But when you really look at the subtext, they are actively dismantling the entire traditional classroom model. I mean, they're staging an absolute rebellion against the way most of us were taught to learn anything.
And that rebellion starts from the very first syllables, really.
Mhm.
Because traditional education is built entirely on abstract systems.
Right, you're taking tests.
Exactly. You are tested on your ability to perfectly reproduce these really rigid rules in a total vacuum.
Ah.
But this text challenges that premise immediately.
By insisting on practical fluency.
Yes. It argues that the theoretical approach is not just, a little inefficient. It's actually functionally useless if your ultimate goal is to navigate the wildly unpredictable nature of actual communication.
Well, and if we look directly at the first half of that title, practical fluency, paired with the word mastering, it sets up this really fascinating tension for me.
How so?
Because when I think about how languages are usually taught, it feels exactly like trying to navigate a sprawling, chaotic city like Tokyo by exclusively memorizing a topographic map.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because a topographic map gives you the exact elevation, the latitude, the longitude. I mean, it is technically flawless information.
Terrific data.
But the second you are actually standing on the street corner in Shibuya surrounded by a million people, that topographic map is completely useless.
Right, because you don't navigate a city by knowing its exact elevation above sea level.
Exactly. You navigate by looking for landmarks. You turn left at the glowing neon noodle sign. You look out for the weirdly shaped tree on the corner.
That's the practical fluency.
Yes, it is the messy, on-the-ground reality of getting from point A to point B. And what strikes me about this source text is that it takes this inherently messy word, practical, and it slams it right up against the word mastering. It says mastering English.
And the friction between those two words is really the whole point here. I mean, normally when we hear the word mastery in an academic context, it invokes this sort of ivory tower of rigid perfection, right?
Oh, absolutely. The master is the person who never, ever drops a preposition.
Right, the person who wields this massive vocabulary of archaic terms and who just exists in a state of flawless linguistic superiority.
The person who knows the pluperfect subjunctive tense and demands that everyone else in the room know it too.
Exactly. But this text redefines mastery completely. By placing mastering right adjacent to practical and real life, the author is making an argument
And what's the argument?
that mastery cannot be achieved in a vacuum. It is not a state of academic perfection. Here, mastery is redefined as adaptability.
Adaptability, I like that.
It's the ability to effectively navigate the chaotic, totally unpredictable variables of real human interaction.
And that reframing is huge for you, the listener, especially if you have ever felt completely paralyzed in a conversation.
Oh, Everyone has been there.
Right. You know that terrifying moment where you are desperately searching your brain for the correct grammar rule? Your cognitive load is just completely maxed out, and the other person is just staring at you, waiting for a response.
It's the worst feeling.
It really is. But this text offers a completely different paradigm. It suggests that your inability to pull up the textbook rule in that high-pressure moment isn't a failure of your intelligence at all.
No, not at all.
It's a failure of the method.
Exactly. The traditional method completely failed to prepare your brain for the actual cognitive demands of a real-time exchange.
Right.
Because true fluency isn't about having this pristine, searchable mental database of vocabulary.
Right.
I mean, if we look at the root of the word fluency, it implies flow. Water is fluent.
Yeah.
When water hits a rock in a stream, it doesn't stop and analyze the molecular structure of the obstacle.
Right. Doesn't try to conjugate the rock.
No. It simply flows around it. And practical fluency is exactly that. It's the ability to flow around the missing vocabulary word.
Give me an example of that.
So, say you forget the word for umbrella. Practical fluency is when you just confidently ask for a handheld roof for the rain.
Yes, I love that. A handheld roof for the rain.
Right, you get your point across. That adaptability, that flowing around the obstacle, that is true mastery.
So, okay, if the textbook fails us the second we step outside, and this sort of rigid academic perfection is no longer the goal, what exactly is the new metric for success?
That's the big question.
Like, what are we actually supposed to be doing out there? And that brings us to the core excerpts directive, functional English.
Yes, and this is where the philosophy of the text really sharpens into a workable daily strategy.
I have to admit, though, I am struggling a little bit with the leap from the word functional to the concept of mastery.
Why is that?
Because to me, functional feels kind of like a compromise. You know, it means I managed to get the door open, but I severely scratched up the lock while doing it.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Like, does aiming for functional mean we are intentionally lowering the bar? Are we just abandoning the beauty and nuance of language and settling for pointing and grunting to get our basic needs met?
Right, like caveman speak.
Yeah. How does settling for functional eventually turn someone into a master?
Well, what's fascinating here is how conditioned we are to view functional as a synonym for mediocre.
We really are.
We think of a functional car as like an ugly beater that barely gets you down the road.
Yeah, with a taped-on mirror and squeaky brakes.
Exactly. But in the context of this framework, functional English is positioned as the direct pathway to mastering. So it cannot mean mediocrity.
Okay, so what does it mean then?
We have to ask ourselves, what is the actual purpose of language? Why did humans develop this incredibly complex system of sounds and symbols in the first place?
Presumably to coordinate, right? To warn each other about predators, to share resources, to collaborate on building a shelter.
Exactly. We invented language to perform functions. We did not invent it to pass multiple choice exams.
That's a great point.
Language is a tool designed to achieve an outcome. So, functional English doesn't mean primitive English. It means language that successfully performs its intended function.
Oh, I see. So it shifts the spotlight entirely away from what the language is like, the taxonomy, the grammar trees, and it focuses relentlessly on what the language does.
Exactly. We are moving from taxonomy to utility. And this requires us to look at something linguists call pragmatics.
Pragmatics, let's get into that.
So pragmatics are the unwritten social rules of language. It's tone, body language, cultural context, timing.
All the stuff that's not in the dictionary.
Right. And textbooks inherently strip pragmatics away because they are literally impossible to standardize on a written page.
That makes total sense. Give me a tangible example of how that plays out. Like, how does perfectly grammatical English fail if it lacks pragmatics?
Okay, imagine a student who has achieved textbook perfection. They can construct a sentence that is grammatically flawless.
A straight-A student.
Yes. And they walk into a busy, high-end coffee shop in a new city to negotiate a highly specific, customized drink order.
Like an iced half-calf oat milk latte with 2 pumps of vanilla.
Exactly. And they deliver their perfect textbook sentence to the barista. But their delivery is incredibly stiff. They completely fail to read the rushed, stressed body language of the barista.
Oh, I've seen this happen.
Their intonation is incredibly formal for a casual setting, and they hesitate too long at all the wrong moments.
And what happens?
The barista gets flustered, misinterprets the very weirdly delivered request, and hands them the wrong coffee.
So the perfect sentence totally failed its function. The lock didn't turn.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with a second student. Their grammar is objectively flawed. They drop a preposition, they use the wrong tense entirely.
A C-minus student on paper.
Right. But they deeply understand the pragmatics of the environment. They use clear, targeted vocabulary, they make the right eye contact, they match the fast-paced energy of the coffee shop, and they use a really friendly, apologetic tone for their complicated order.
And they get the right coffee.
They walk away with the exact coffee they wanted. So, who has demonstrated practical fluency?
Well, the second person, obviously. They achieved the real-world outcome. It's the difference between having a beautifully ornate, diamond-encrusted key that doesn't actually fit the lock and having a slightly bent, plain brass key that just clicks the door wide open.
That is a perfect way to put it.
At the end of the day, you just need the door open. You don't care how pretty the key is.
Right. And the text is urging us to evaluate our communication based solely on its utility. A flawless sentence that alienates your listener or fails to convey your need is infinitely less valuable than a fractured sentence that successfully comforts a grieving friend, or de-escalates a conflict, or negotiates a complex contract.
It's about what actually works.
Yes, functional isn't a downgrade at all. It is the ultimate grueling test of a language tool.
Wow. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source material doesn't just philosophize about aiming for functional mastery.
No, it gives a location.
Right. It dictates the exact laboratory where this mastery must be developed. The phrase real-life situations is literally the only element repeated in both of the sentences we are analyzing today.
That's right.
Mastering English through real-life situations.
Right.
And then learn functional English through real-life situations. In a text this brief, that repetition is a flashing neon sign.
The author is making an uncompromising environmental demand there. They are completely bypassing simulated learning.
Like classroom exercises.
Exactly. They are arguing that the classroom is fundamentally an artificial construct, and you simply cannot learn the unpredictable nature of a functional tool in a space where all the variables are neatly controlled.
But wait, why is the physical reality so necessary? Because we simulate real life in classrooms all the time.
We do, yeah.
I mean, anyone who has taken a language course remembers those awkward role-play exercises.
Oh, the absolute worst.
Right. The teacher hands you a card and says, pretend you are at the bank and your partner is the bank teller. Ask for a loan.
Yep.
Why doesn't that work? If I'm using the words, why does the environment matter so much?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of how the human brain actually encodes memory, the necessity of those real-life situations becomes brilliantly clear. We have to look at the neurochemistry of learning.
Okay, let's get into the brain science.
Context is the glue for memory, and stakes are the catalyst.
Stakes are the catalyst. I really like that phrase. Break down the mechanics of that for us. Why does my brain care about stakes?
So, the human brain is a fiercely energy-conserving organ. It is constantly bombarded with millions of data points every single second.
It's just taking in so much all the time.
Exactly. And its primary job is to filter out what doesn't matter for your survival so it doesn't waste energy.
Right.
If I put you in a sterile room and hand you a list of 20 random vocabulary words on flashcards, your brain perceives that information as biologically useless.
Because there's no danger.
Right. There's no threat. There's no reward. There is no real context. Your amygdala is just completely quiet.
So it just bounces off.
Yeah, the brain physically fights the encoding process. You have to use sheer, exhausting rote repetition to brute force those words into your short-term memory.
And then I'm guessing the second the test is over, the brain just dumps the information to save hard drive space.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's gone. But let's completely change the environment to a real-life situation. You are in a bustling train station in a foreign country. You are totally lost, your phone is completely dead, and you desperately need to find the right platform before the last train of the night leaves.
Oh man, my heart rate is going up just thinking about it.
Right. So you manage to decipher a sign, or you manage to ask a stranger, and you learn the specific word for northbound platform.
Your adrenaline is pumping at that point. Your cortisol levels are definitely elevated.
Exactly. Your brain is flooded with neurochemicals telling it, pay attention. This information is absolutely critical for our immediate well-being.
Wow.
And when you successfully find the platform, your brain releases a hit of dopamine, the reward chemical.
Because you survived the ordeal.
Exactly. That cocktail of elevated stakes, emotional weight, and chemical reward physically alters the neural pathways in your brain. It locks that word into your long-term memory almost instantly.
So context and stakes, completely bypass the need for rote repetition.
They do.
So going back to the classroom, the role play at the fake bank fails because your brain is just too smart to be fooled.
It knows.
It knows you aren't really at a bank. It knows there is no actual money on the line. The stakes are zero, so the neurochemical learning pathways simply never activate.
That's exactly it. By demanding that we learn through real-life situations, this pedagogical framework is finally aligning the learning process with the actual biological reality of our neurology.
The textbook fights our neurobiology,
Yes.
but real life leverages it.
Beautifully stated, yeah.
Man, this shifts everything about how we interact with our day-to-day environment. If you really internalize this concept, it means that your daily routine is no longer a series of mundane chores that interrupt your study time.
No, not at all.
The chores are the study time. It transforms the entire physical world into an immersive, high-stakes classroom.
But it requires a really profound psychological pivot to see it that way. You have to stop viewing the world as a testing ground for the language you learned in a book.
Right, like an exam you have to pass.
Exactly. You have to start viewing the interactions themselves as the primary curriculum.
The messy interactions.
Yes. The awkward exchange with the cashier at the grocery store, the frustrating phone call with customer service, the stumbling small talk with your neighbor. These are the real-life situations where pragmatics and stakes and functional utility all collide.
It completely democratizes the learning process, doesn't it?
It really does.
I mean, you don't need a $1,000 immersion program in another country. You don't need a state-of-the-art language lab with noise-canceling headphones and software subscriptions.
No.
The curriculum is literally waiting outside your front door. It is completely free and it's running 24 hours a day.
It is free, but we should acknowledge that it is not easy.
No, it's terrifying sometimes.
It demands a significant amount of emotional bravery. Because the textbook is a very safe space. The textbook has an answer key printed at the back. It doesn't judge you if you get it wrong.
Right. Real life has no answer key.
None. People speak way too fast. They use dense regional slang that you've never heard. They mumble. They lose patience with you. They change the subject without any warning.
It is inherently intimidating to step into that chaos.
Absolutely.
You have to be willing to scratch the lock like we talked about earlier. You have to be willing to look a little foolish to get the door open.
But the promise embedded in this text is that if you embrace that discomfort, if you prioritize the functional outcome over the aesthetic form of your sentences, you will achieve a depth of mastery that the artificial classroom environment is literally incapable of providing.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and synthesize everything we have extracted from these few highly concentrated words: practical fluency, mastering English through real-life situations.
Yeah, what's the big takeaway?
It means that true mastery of a language, and frankly, true mastery of human connection, is not found in the pursuit of isolated theoretical perfection.
No, it's not.
It is not found